Now, the key of looking at the 12,000 level, and I'll explain my thought process behind it. Basically, you have this drop from here to here, which is pretty much a vertical with very few bounces. And that distance is now being replicated with what's called a measured move. Yeah, so amazing drop and yeah, it's amazing to see how sentiment shifts as a trader, right? So I mean, when I was talking about this last October or so, we were at 65, 68,000 and everyone was so bullish, and now you're starting to see a lot of bearishness. Now, I'm in the camp that we're not at the lows yet. I still think, 20,000, there's no doubt that is a technical level. I do think eventually it gets broken at this point, mainly because I don't think the stock market has bottomed yet. And when you see the NASDAQ, for instance, selling, we know that that is tied to crypto because it is a risk asset. So ultimately, I do think we're going to go down further, maybe get a bounce here at 21st. But ultimately, I have a downside max target of 12,000 on Bitcoin. And I can show you here. Let me show my chart. Yeah, so here was your high at 69 or so, and then we had that nice kind of move down, almost straight vertical down here. We had about 3 months of sideways consolidation, and then the next wave of selling came in. Here's your 20,000 former high from 2017. One of the things that makes me think we might get a bounce here is that you did put in a bottoming tail yesterday. So bottoming tails on a technical basis, those are bullish short-term signals. Doesn't mean we're gonna still hold it in 3 months from now, but maybe at least in the next few weeks. So you're getting a retrace today. As long as you don't take out that low on a closing basis, then this bottoming tail is a bullish indicator near term. Now, the key of looking at the 12,000 level, and I'll explain my thought process behind it. Basically, you have this drop from here to here, which is pretty much a vertical with very few bounces. And that distance is now being replicated with what's called a measured move. And a measured move takes the high here to the low here, and then the high from the consolidation period, and then you map out the same distance, and that brings us to about 12,000 on Bitcoin. So that's my guess, is that we're putting in this kind of measured move formation. Another interesting little tidbit of why that target makes sense is that if you go to past cycles, 2018 after it topped in 2017, and then also 2013, you actually saw 80 to 85% drawdowns in Bitcoin. If you get 80 to 85% from 69,000, you also get 12,000. When I started talking 20,000, it was the unpopular kind of target. And then as we've gotten closer, everyone has joined that party, which now makes me say, oh, well, I like being unpopular. So now I got to change my target and kind of adjust it down a little bit. Because you're right. Everyone has talked now about 20,000 over the last month or so. Everyone has their stops right below 20,000. We know that the powers that be are going to flush it through that. And again, just looking at the equity markets, at this stage, the markets aren't even back to the pre-COVID highs yet. And so you have to think that that's a target on the S&P and the NASDAQ. And that's still, 10, 15% lower. And I can't imagine somehow Bitcoin's going to miraculously hold 20,000 if the equity markets sell off another 10 or 15%. So right now, the keys are, so I've been looking at the Russell, and I'll bring up that chart for you guys. I want to show you this. And by the way, just to make a precursor to this statement or showing this, I'm a shorter term investor. So I'm not saying that this is a longer term trade on the IWM, but what I'm looking at is an oversold short-term condition. You're filling a gap here on the IWM chart. You have this support here. Just below, you have a ton of support here. And my guess is the Russell, which let us down. And this is another interesting point. If you look at the Russell topped out before the NASDAQ and the S&P. And the Russell is one of those indexes I use as a kind of leading indicator for the rest of the market. So if you look at the high here on the Russell, which by the way was a failed breakout, and failed breakouts, one of my sayings is, you get the biggest moves from failed moves, meaning that when you fail a breakout, which occurred right here, likely you're going to get slammed. And that's exactly what happened here. But the bottom line is, this topped out in early November. If you go to the NASDAQ 100 chart, the NASDAQ 100 didn't top out till late November. So it was about a 2 to 3 week leading indicator for the overall market. So what I'm doing is I'm starting to pay attention to the Russell in the near term here, which may start to sense that interest rates are topping out here. And then on the other side of the coin, I'm actually someone who's playing with the short side of oil. So I have a bunch of indicators here that are telling me oil is actually a short, which goes contrarian to what everyone else is saying. I mean, everyone you talk to, go long energy stocks, energy is the safe play. Number one, they said the same thing at Bitcoin at 65,000. So we have to be suspect when you start to hear that, right?